Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Fireside Chat. So happy to have you here. This is a series of Fireside Chats we'll have leading up to the UseR conference in July. So happy that we have Ekaterina and Shannon here. I will ask you to introduce yourselves for a minute.
Sure, I'll go. So I'm Shannon Pileggi. I'm a lead data scientist at the Prostate Cancer Clinical Trials Consortium. I'm also one of 5 members of the R-Ladies leadership team. I joined in this role in January of 2023. And I'll also say that I'm the newest member of the global team and the R-Ladies leadership team. I don't have as much institutional knowledge as some other members of the team. So if I say anything that is a mischaracterization of R-Ladies while you're listening to this, please feel free to reach out and let me know.
Awesome. And Ekaterina?
Okay. Hello, I'm Ekaterina Akimova, and I'm also working in cancer research in Salzburg, doing a lot of bioinformatics. And just currently, a couple of months ago, I initiated their R-Ladies chapter in Salzburg, and kind of looking what will this bring, and setting up the new community, searching for new speakers, and not even much experience in this area, but very, very eager to learn new stuff and to connect with other R-Ladies members.
Yeah. So you started R-Ladies Salzburg recently. Is that the case?
Yeah, it was basically in January this year, so a couple of months ago, and it started basically with one thought. I would like to join an R user group, and I was searching for those in the area, so near Salzburg or Salzburg, and I couldn't find not a single one. And that's when I thought, wait a second, just organize one and then find people that have similar interests, and maybe there are a couple of ladies that will join your group. Initially, I was also thinking of organizing like a general user group. However, it just felt right at the moment to support fellow women who are also struggling with coding and similar stuff.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm sure people who are listening to this who are trying to start their own will take a lot of tips from both of you. I'm Audrey. I'm a biostatistician and a statistical software engineer, and I'll be asking the questions to these women, questions that we collected from the community. So let's start with the first one. I often feel like these groups depend on 1 or 2 people. Do you have advice on how to set up a group that would survive the founders leaving? Maybe Shannon, you can start with this one.
Yeah, I mean, I think this comment is applicable both at the chapter level and at the global level. You'll see that specific pain point and failure point at any level of the organization. I think it's really helpful if you set up a transition period. So you identify in advance that you are ready to leave the organization or leave as a chapter organizer, and try to find people that are willing to step in, but that are willing to partner with you in a transition period while you step down, so that they can learn from you. Oftentimes, though, when people are ready to step down and they can't find a replacement, then there's a gap. And that gap leads, that time gap leads to a knowledge gap, and it's a lot harder to get started and stay ready.
Yeah, that absolutely makes sense. And I'm curious to know, Ekaterina, do you have a co-leader or someone to fill in when you go on holiday?
Yeah, so that's what I'm also currently working on. There are a couple of ladies that come on to me just after our first meetup and said, like, if you need any help with organization, we are happy to help. And I was really more than happy to hear that, because their amount of work you have to do as an organizer is really huge, especially in the beginning, I think. And I think it's important to extend your organization or organizing team so that you don't have to be the only one doing the whole stuff. And in case you want to leave, there is already somebody knowing the stuff and maybe having the same contacts, the same information that you have. And I mean, yeah, knowing what's been done and knowing the community already.
There seems to be a lot of benefits in terms of networking. So I'm really happy that lots of your members are putting their hand up to help out as well. That will just grow the community. And do you think these communities work better in person?
I think for a community to work, it's the personal contact is very important. But I think online you still can organize events or meetups where you don't have like official agenda and you just let people talk about their problems or work together on a certain problem. I don't know, just exchange experience and stuff, and just let people make their own personal friendships in between members. And I think once it's happened, once the members have in some intensive personal connections between each other, then it remains sustainable. Then it will come into our first question. It will also survive a founder leaving, and it will also function in an online form, in my opinion.
Excellent. That really does answer my other question, but maybe Shannon, you want to add to what how to build a sustainable community based on your experiences?
Yeah, I mean, I'll add to the previous thought that there are some like very strong benefits of online meetups in terms of accessibility. People don't have to travel, and you don't have to worry about like picking up kids and meeting somewhere. And I think that's really huge that I've heard, you know, in larger cities, people are traveling 2 hours to go to an event. But at the same time, I see a lot of the online events, at least the recorded ones, are straight to business. And there's like just not a lot of time for that personal interaction and chit chat. So that's also like a falling out of some of the online events. So I think a healthy mix of both, or at least online events, like you said, Ekaterina, that encourage personal interaction are good as well.
Yeah, I can relate to that. I still dig up old videos of R-Ladies meetups, particularly the ones from down under where I'm from, and they run very interesting and useful workshops. Thank you for sharing that.
I mean, you just asked the other question about sustainable communities.
Yeah. Please go on.
Oh, can you repeat that question?
Yeah, of course. How do you build sustainable communities?
Yeah, so Riva, a member of the R-Ladies leadership team, gave a great talk on this last year at PositConf, and I would encourage you to check that out. But yeah, sustainable communities require a lot of good documentation about how things run. And one effort that we have been working on is making tasks role specific instead of person specific. So a lot of our documentation used to say like, message Shannon if you need something, right? But Shannon might leave or Shannon might be sick, right? Like, so it's not always great practice to message Shannon. Maybe you want to message the mentoring team instead of Shannon, right? And so that's one way to help make things sustainable. Another way for sustainable communities that we've been working on in the leadership team is having clear onboarding and offboarding procedures. So it's clear that when people come into the global team, they know what their roles are and how to be successful in those roles. And then when they're ready to leave, they're also feel a sense of closure, that they don't keep getting pinged. Like if there's documentation somewhere that says message Shannon, like they're not going to be getting those messages anymore.
Those are quite concrete examples of how to maintain also the knowledge within the community. Can you share any platforms, both of you, that you use to within your R community that might help?
Our biggest platform, people might be more familiar with our R-Ladies website. That's publicly facing, but we also have an R-Ladies guide, which is also publicly facing, just probably only used more by chapter organizers. So it's a website where we document practices on how to be an organizer, or how to operate in different roles of the global team. And we try to keep that as best up to date as we can. But other people I've seen use wikis on GitHub or just shared Google documents. It's important that like those Google documents are associated with an institutional or not an institutional, I mean an organizational account. So sometimes people might, start a Google Doc under their own personal account, but then when they leave the organization, where does that Google Doc live, right? So if you're creating documentation, make sure it lives under the organization somewhere.
Yeah, that's what we're also thinking about, to get in GitHub repository for our chapter and put there any information that may be relevant for further organization. I'm still working on it.
Awesome. Can you share a success story of a local initiative that had an impact on gender diversity in tech at a person or an institution level?
I'll start off by saying the focus of R-Ladies really is not at the institutional level, right? So we are a community-centered focus. We don't ever want to be affiliated with institutions, just because if you're institutional specific, then you're not open to the community. You're only open to people of that specific institution. So to keep it an open community, we tend to not look at institutional efforts. At a personal level, I can say I've come pretty far as a member of R-Ladies, right? I started off just as a community participant. And actually the first time I did a pull request was on the R-Ladies blog. Like I had never seen a pull request before and never had a need to do it myself. And it was great to walk through and learn that process with like a really friendly group of individuals teaching me how to do it.
Yeah, great. Ekaterina, do you have any success stories in this regard, or at this present time?
I think up till now, no. But I hope in the future I will hear a lot of success stories from my R-Ladies.
Great. And I guess the success story is also already having a local initiative. So well done to that. What's a piece of advice you've received about fostering an inclusive community? I think both of you touched on it already, but anything you'd like to highlight?
I think the best way to foster community is just to take part and to be there. And that's not something only organizers can do. I think every member of the community, or basically any person, can contribute to that. So if you feel like you belong to any community, just look up their meetup groups and join them.
Yeah, that's good.
I think along with that, I think it's helpful if you kind of validate where people are and say, we want to hear from you. Like, we want to hear from you if you have 0 years of programming experience. And we want to hear from you if you're senior in a role. And we want to hear from you if you have a specialty in this, or if you want to be learning this, right? Like, validate exactly where people are in their journey and say, like, this is the exact perspective that we want to hear from. And it really helps make that inclusive. And also, you know, I think the best thing that you can do is talk to people and listen. Yeah.
And I think the more we do that within our communities, the more people take that on and pay it forward. I've definitely, even though I've participated online, seen this kind of values in the workshops that I've seen online, and it transmits. So thank you. That was really interesting. The next question for the community is, what do you think leads to communities failing, and how can that be best avoided?
Do you mean failing, like not making difference in the end?
Well, I guess something like continuing, or I guess not making. I'm sure they make a difference, or maybe not. Or maybe not. Maybe you want to speak to that.
And another point of failure is just closing, right? The chapter closing down, the organization closing down. I mean, yeah, so that not having a period of knowledge transition can certainly lead to failure. I think it's R-Ladies feels so entrenched in the community right now. It's hard to even imagine a future where it doesn't exist. But like organizations like this don't always last. Like Women Who Code recently shut down, and that's like a large organization. And it's like really a huge shock to a lot of people. And there's other nonprofit organizations in the same realm that have shut down, and it's sobering to see, and it makes me personally more vigilant about like what are we doing, and how can we make sure that this organization lives on, and it really comes down to the people.
That's great. Ekaterina, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think I kind of said a couple of things before, like just give people the room to make personal connections during the meetups or during the community or events, so that they're really interested in going on, and to maybe self-organize, even if founders or leaders are gone.
Yeah, I'm wondering, and I want to hear from both of you, if the personal connection seems to be more of a success factor in smaller populations where Our Lady communities are.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's both a success factor and an outcome, right? Like,
Yeah.
I think, you know, those personal connections help to feed, grow, and foster communities at all levels, at the chapter level and the global and the leadership level. And then, yeah.
I'm only saying that because I'm wondering whether smaller cities have that as a outcome that's more often than a big city, that people just come and do a workshop and then leave because they have to travel 2 hours. Then the next question from the community is, what has been the most rewarding aspect of your work with R-Ladies? It says on a global scale, but I'm really interested to know as well from a local scale.
Well, as I said, I've just started a couple of months ago, but it's really incredible how many people I've already got to know in this short period of time. You really have make a lot of friends, a lot of connections, do a lot of networking. If you are a part of a larger organization such as R-Ladies Global, you can make your work visible within a very short period of time. So you gain visibility, you can promote your co-workers as well. And yeah, that's what I'm very, very enjoying right now and very grateful for. Yeah, and I'm really excited for the upcoming events.
Shannon, do you have anything?
I mean, I get so excited when I talk to people all over the world working on this organization. Like, it's just incredible to know people in different time zones and different countries and different languages, and that are all working towards this. And it makes me like want to start planning some travel and meet some friends in person for the first time, you know? And then on a more personal level, like once you know, you give to the community, the community gives back to you. So it's just incredible to know that if I have a question, I know so many experts in so many different areas of the field now that the question will be answered without any judgment, right? Like there, the pit of knowledge is bottomless now, and it's really exciting.
Yeah, I've experienced that just as a user. There's a huge disclaimer when you go into the R-Ladies Slack about being very kind and fair to others, and I'm glad to see it pay back to both of you. This one I'll need you to guide me because I don't really know what chapter activities mean, but do global perspective and how do they influence local chapter activities and vice versa in the R-Ladies network?
Ekaterina, do you feel like global perspectives are influencing your activities?
Yeah, Ekaterina, have you had a lot of interaction / influences from the global R-Ladies?
So I think if it weren't for the global team, for their work they've done, I wouldn't even consider initiating a local chapter because I wouldn't even know how to start. So the global organization provides you with all the tools and all the recommendations and advices, how to start, what you'll need, get an email address, like this panel thing that would take you years probably to set up. They're already there. So this, at least the online infrastructure is there already, and you can just start to use it. And that makes it very, very easy to start a new chapter and yeah, and benefit from it.
Yeah, that's yeah, right. So like the global perspective exactly provides the tooling, the technology. With some of those things, there is latitude, right? So we do provide a global Zoom account, but if chapters prefer, they are welcome to use their own Zoom account or institutional Zoom account. So there's that freedom there. But there are some things that we have to be a little bit more strict and regulated on. So for example, using Meetup to log events is actually really, really important to the global team. Because Meetup is very expensive and the R consortium gives us a grant to help fund Meetup. And in order to justify continuation of that grant, we need to show that we are actually having events. So if you don't log your event on Meetup, then we don't know that you had it and it doesn't count towards our grant funding, right? So there are some things that, you know, can be chapter specific, but there are some things that we like really ask that you follow to help the global organization. Beyond technology setup, we also give chapters the freedom to figure out how they want to interact with the community depending on their local context. So an example of this is that some chapters invite cis men to join their meetups, and some chapters choose not to. And that is their choice depending on their experiences and interactions within those local contexts.
That's a really interesting point that you made, because I do notice that some chapters have not just, if you like, female names in the list of participants. And this question goes to Ekaterina. When you first started with R-Ladies, what were your initial challenges and how did you go about them?
So I think the initial challenges, they still persist. So
Yeah.
I haven't overcome them all yet. I think the most important challenge currently is to maybe find some funding. So we got the our user group grant from our consortium for the brand new groups, which is not very large. So we are really hoping to get more sponsorships to to finance maybe a venue or travel costs for the speakers that are coming from other cities or countries. I mean, Salzburg is not very big, so we will invite somebody eventually from outside and this stuff. And yeah, that is I would say the main challenge now that we are working on. Maybe Shannon, you have some advice.
Not off the top of my head.
Yeah,
Funding is hard and it is a challenge, and it could possibly get easier as your chapter becomes more active, right? Like you're a new chapter, so maybe you'll meet members of the local community that are involved in local businesses where they could convince that business to sponsor you as well. And even, a sponsorship doesn't have to be huge. So for example, in R-Ladies Philadelphia, someone has their local employer buy pizza. Like that's it, and just have some food at the meetup.
Yeah, that's nice.
That's really good. Then people who are watching this who want to start their own can already take that and start their community. How can the R community leverage online platforms to enhance participation and inclusion from underrepresented people? Shannon, you touched on this before, but what have you thought about when starting an R-Ladies community / what have you learned over the years that has been also sustainable to use?
Yeah, online platforms is pretty broad and vague, right? Like I think, one specific challenge that we have is communication, right? So we have a Slack community group. We have one for community Slack. We have a chapter organizer Slack. And I know a lot of people that are chapter organizers that are not active in the chapter organizer Slack. I know a lot of people that are in the community that are not active in the community Slack. I know some of these people are active on LinkedIn, and some of these people are active on Twitter, and some of these people are active on Mastodon, and maybe they even have a TikTok account. I don't know, right? And so right now, there's not one central place to communicate with people and access people, right? And so that makes it harder to really send out the messaging about underrepresented groups being welcome and that we value their participation. And that's something we can continue to work on.
That's great. Do you have anything to add, Ekaterina, for this?
I think if you're thinking like on a local level, you may reach out to minority communities, even if they don't have anything to do with our programming. Maybe they are organized by some other interest. I don't know. Just reach out to them and ask organizers to send your information or invitation to their members, and this way, like reaching their the potential members.
That's great. We have a last question. This is also something that I've been wondering about. What is the relationship between general R groups and also for other underrepresented groups like different ethnicities or LGBTQ? I also think the question is also referring to like different countries. So in a city, you might have a general R group and then an R-Ladies group. What is the relationship between that, for example?
I think the relationship can be whatever you want it to be. It's really up to the chapter organizer, right? The chapter organizer has the freedom to define how they want to interact with their local community. And some chapter organizers do arrange co-hosted events. So there will be a co-hosted event with a local R-Ladies group and a local R-User group. There can even be a co-hosted event with an R-Ladies group and a Pi-Ladies group. Or on meetups, right? There can be co-hosted events like within R-Ladies groups across different time zones, right? So there's a lot of different ways you can bring different groups together. What's important to us is that if you are co-hosting with like a non-R-Ladies group, that you think very carefully as you go into the event about what code of conduct that event will be adhering to, right? Are they going to be adhering to the R-Ladies code of conduct or that other group's code of conduct? And make sure you establish those guidelines as you go into the event to make sure it's clear and welcoming for all.
Great. Ekaterina, do you have this kind of symbiosis or a similar group near where you are?
So luckily in Salzburg, to my knowledge, there is no other similar groups to R-Ladies or R-User groups or even Python user groups, or at least I'm not aware of them. And I've also been thinking a lot about joint events and if we should do them, how we should do them, and if the people would like it. I think one thing you have to be aware of, how big is your community and how big is the community you are joining with. So, you know, nobody gets lost on the way in a big crowd. And as Shannon said, it's basically the connection can be any way you want it to be. And it's a perfect sentence, I think, to round this up. Yeah.
Great. Well, that concludes our fireside chat. I just want to say thank you so much for not only sharing this chat with me and with the rest who are watching, but the work that R-Ladies do. I mean, even personally, I have definitely benefited from that on a personal and a professional level, and I hope to continue to pay that forward. Any last comments by either of you before we close?
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us, or for inviting me, and I hope to meet you maybe during the Use R conference in Salzburg and some of the people who are hearing to us, who are listening to us right now.
Yeah, come say hi, come find us.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thanks. Bye for now.
Bye.